Boys and girls, we're going to be starting this morning with using the close reading strategy to look at a passage called Segregation. We need to guide us through that, so I thought it might be good for us to use that same paper again, just so it refreshed our memories on what we were supposed to do. So if we take a look first, we'll need to put the title. What's the title of the passage that we're going to be using? Segregation. So let's put that right there at the top. The next thing that we have to do for close reading is decide the purpose of this text is to do what? So what would be the purpose of reading this passage about segregation? Max, can you help me? To inform. So if we think about the three different pieces of purpose for reading, inform is one of them. What's another? Entertain us. What's another? To persuade us. All right. So why do you think inform, Max?
Because this is segregation, non-fictional source.
Right, so we know it's non-fictional. We know that it's non-fiction. That's a pretty good idea, that it's going to be an informational type text that we're going to be reading, isn't it? So in knowing that it's informational text, what are some text features that you already see in the passage of segregation? What do you see, Alexis? I see some keywords in there too. Can you tell us a keyword?
Civil rights.
Civil rights. What does that mean? What does it say in that box?
Rights that everyone should have.
All right, so rights that everyone should have are civil rights. Another keyword that's in there, Anna? What's legal mean?
Allowed by law.
Something that's allowed by the law. So if we think back for just a second, just knowing those two words right here, it makes me think back to what we were talking about over here. We're at the third question now, that's a supporting question, and we've been looking at what ways were African Americans oppressed after the Civil War, and how did they overcome this oppression? So there were three main ways that African Americans were oppressed. Talk to a neighbor right now. All right, my friends, we need three different oppressions. I'm going to draw a stick to see if somebody can tell me an oppression. Leanne, can you tell me one oppression? Segregation was a way that they were oppressed. Bryden, what's another way?
Sharecropping.
Sharecropping was another way. And Erica, I need a third way. Do you remember what the last one was? Voting rights. You're exactly right. So when we talk about oppression, what does oppression mean? We looked up that word in the dictionary to try and figure that out. Who remembers, what does oppression mean? Anna?
It means like
Treating people how you wouldn't want to be treated. Giving them a hardship, right? You're exactly right. So we know that segregation is one of those. So we're going to start focusing in on that oppression to see if we can learn just a little bit more about it. So as Max told us, the purpose of this story is to inform us about that oppression. All right, so let's put that in there next. Inform us about the oppression of segregation. So our very first thing that it says that we need to do is to look for our title. What's the main topic or title about in this passage? What would be the title, Jordan? Segregation. So highlight segregation.
everything in the passage is going to be about.
You got everything in the whole passage then should relate back to that topic of segregation. So we want to, first of all, always look at what the topic is to get our mind focused in on it. The next thing that it says to do is to underline the topic sentence in each paragraph in yellow. So we're going to need to the paragraphs and decide what's going to be the topic. Where are they usually located at in a paragraph? Emma, can you help me?
The beginning sentence or the last sentence?
Beginning or ending. So let's take a look as we read this one together, what those are going to be. Before you start reading the passage, what do you think we should do?
Read the question.
Let's read the questions together. Number one, what were two problems African Americans had when slavery ended? Okay. Number two, what does segregation mean? Number three, slavery ended in 1865. Buses in Montgomery, Alabama were segregated until 1955. How many years had passed? So those are our questions that we have that we're going to be answering as we do this today. So now we have those in our mind of that's what we're looking for to help us focus too. So we know what's on segregation. We know we're going to need to answer these questions. We've had the questions, we've had the keywords, we've had the topic. Now we're ready to read a paragraph. How will we know where to stop reading if we're reading a paragraph to find the topic sentence? Alexis.
Look at the sentence under and if the hand is not, then that's where you stop.
Exactly. So we have an indent right here. We know that starts the first paragraph. There's another indent right here, which tells me that's the end of the paragraph right there, doesn't it? Read that part with me right now. Slavery in America ended in 1865 at the end of the... Emma said earlier, first sentence, last sentence. I'm going to reread those. Slavery in America ended in 1865 at the end of the Civil War. Is that what this whole thing is about in here? Or is it, this is what is called segregation? What do you think? Which one do you think it would be? Dennis, do you have an idea? Anybody agree with Dennis, or are you thinking no? Okay, so I see a lot of agreement happening. So that means let's take what color? Yellow, and we are going to highlight that one as our topic sentence. Reread the very first paragraph to yourself again right now. Go. Talk with a partner. What are some key words that you just underlined in that first passage that you think really stand out, that are important details?
No, we have to think 3 to 5 more.
Words then that you had in common with a partner that you just talked with that you think are really important details. Peyton, can you give me one?
Segregation.
Segregation. Are you guys, anybody else do that one too, in agreement? Yes? All right, I agree too. Segregation. What's another one?
Civil War.
Civil War. What does Civil War do?
It ended slavery.
It ended slavery, but then segregation started because ending the Civil War brought new what? So they brought new problems, and those problems were segregation. Macy, something else?
Separate.
Separate. Ah. I think that's an important word too, because what do we know about the word separate? Segregation means to separate. You're exactly right. So if I look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I should stop. The swimming pools. Yeah, that would definitely be one to do. We've got buses, theaters, restrooms, swimming pools. All of those where they eat and drink for restaurants, all of them had to be different and separate from each other. Let's go to the next paragraph. Right. The voting. They were making it hard for African Americans to vote, weren't they? Peyton.
African Americans.
African Americans, because that's who they're targeting, isn't it? Exactly. Is that what you were thinking too, Logan? I noticed you put your hand down, so there was an agreement there. Emma, did you have a different one?
Segregation laws.
Segregation laws. Okay? We're going to be learning what some of those laws were called. They had a special name, too. So we'll learn a little bit more about that a little bit later today. Allison?
Not change.
Not change. You're right. Okay, so we should probably stop there because I think we have our 5 there. Let's go to the last paragraph. Read that one on your own. Decide on 3 to 5 key details and then partner it. Laws change. So we want to change, don't we? Caitlin, something else?
Civil rights movement.
Civil rights movement. When was that? As we read, let's see if we can answer question 1 and put a Q1 by where in our text we can cite the evidence to help us know that that's the answer. So the question was, slavery in America ended in 1865. Is there anything in that paragraph that answers a problem that African Americans had when slavery ended? Kaylin?
Segregation.
Segregation. So let's put a Q1 by segregation. Voting rights. So let's go to the spot where it talks about voting. I think we even put that as a key word, a key detail, didn't we? So let's put a Q1 in that spot right there. We have talked about the race strategy this year, looking and citing evidence, and then using part of our question to actually answer it. So what would we use to start our answer, Erica?
Two problems African Americans have when slavery ended.
So this part right here of the question is what we would start our answer with, and then we would tell our answer with that. So let's put that in there right now. Two problems African Americans had when slavery ended were. And if we go back up to where we just put our Q1s, one is going to be segregation. I agree with you, Logan and Dennis. And the other one would be voting rights. So then the third question. Slavery ended in 1865. Buses in Montgomery, Alabama were segregated until 1955. How many years had passed?
Actually, yeah, third paragraph.
Okay, so in the last paragraph, about how many years is it?
100 years.
It's about 100 years. So we talked about how sometimes we estimate things too. If we wanted the exact number rather than just the about that they told in the passage, what would we do then? If we want to see.
You would do 1955 minus 18.
100 years. So this one's just talking about how long the buses were segregated. Now, Caitlin, I go back to the question that you asked a couple of days ago. When you were asking Mrs. Heckert, we know how slavery ended. We know it was the 13th Amendment. We know the Civil War ended. We know that. But you were asking the other day, how did segregation stop? How did sharecropping stop? How did voting rights? How did those forms of oppression stop? Does this help you kind of get some of those answers right now?
Yes, it helps me figure out how the segregation of the buses stopped.
Right. So this one, they're really focusing on buses. We know that bus boycott that they're talking about here. The next question that it asks me is, the main idea of this article is. Talk to a partner right now. What do you think the main idea of this article is?
How segregation affected African Americans.
Okay, so the main idea is how segregation affected African Americans would be our main idea. Would you please go down and mark any text features that we used in this article to help us? Who has a text feature that we can put a check mark by? Dennis, what'd you find? Headings. There were definitely headings in there, so let's put a check by that one. Haley.
Word box.
Word box. How are they helpful? Yeah, what the word means. Exactly right. And what do headings do for us? What do headings do, Kayla?
Tell us what you're reading about.
Yeah, what we're going to be reading about. Any other things that you saw as a text feature in there, Erica? Photos. What did the photo do? Exactly. It helped us visualize by showing us a picture to see what it was exactly like during segregation. May I see another one?
Captions.
Captions. What do captions do for us?
They told us what was going on in the picture.
Right. Told us more information about the picture. For closing today, tell your partner sitting next to you, what is one form of oppression that we learned about today?
Segregation.
Tell me what that oppression was. 1, 2, 3.
Segregation.
We will be looking at some historical photos tomorrow. You saw one today that went with the reading. Tomorrow we'll do some investigating with a photo analysis on more segregation laws.